what you passed through in your life in any way contribute to where you are today as a coach? Because now you are coaching other women, you are helping people. Did what you passed through in any way contribute to why you are doing what you are doing?
I would say everything literally, because it the trauma literally started when my mom passed away. I just didn't realize it. I didn't realize the loss would be so hard. You grow up, even though you have other women figures in your life, you still don't have that mother. You have every child mostly that are talking about my mom. I never had that conversation. It was hard, not having to come home to that. So that was the first trauma. The second trauma was not having my dad. When you don't have those figures in your life to guide you and help you, you make a lot of mistakes. And the loss of having that person in the household is even worse. So, understanding the pain of it all and the mistakes you make from not having those entities in your life, it's hard. It's the worst feeling in the world. It's really unexplainable. I'm thankful for being able to understand a lot of the things that even my dad as a man, the mistakes he made, I understand that he did it the best he could. Um, he only knew to tell me what he knew. Growing up, we think parents were wrong for certain things, but to understand that they only raise you the best way they can. Some things they say to you could be painful as a child, and as a child, you're not allowed to speak back. You're not allowed to say your mind. Whatever you feel in your heart is true for you, and you begin to rebel. You know, and in life, those words shape who you become, because well, mom and dad couldn't be right, so this must be true about me. So I found myself just owning up to those words. I was told I was hard headed. I was told I wasn't a bad child. And so you grow up with certain words that are told to you. You grow up with certain mentalities, things that happen to you as a child and you don't understand them. So you form opinions about a lot of things in life and you don't understand it. And when you have a father, a male figure especially, if you haven't been, let's just say my dad loved me the best way he knew how. He wasn't a cuddler. He didn't say I love you a lot, but he did take very good care of me. He wasn't abusive or anything. I ate, had clean clothes, I had a roof over my head, had food to eat, you know. But even the emotional side of it, we need as children. So when you don't get that, you start looking for it in other places. You are, because that part of you is missing. They loved you, but the other part of that love is just not there. So you start looking for it in other places. And that's what I did, you know, got me in a lot of trouble. And that's what put me in the psych ward. So, as an adult, I had a 7-year-old, and a lot of people don't understand. And the one thing that I try to bring around is when you're in the psych ward and you've attempted suicide, and thank God that you make it over, but people say you're being selfish. And I'm going to be honest with you. Yes, you truly are being selfish because you don't have the capacity to do anything else at that moment. You're not trying to be selfish, but everything in that moment is trying to just breathe, trying to survive. And you don't even have the capacity to think about there's someone else I'm forgetting about. You're just trying to find the next breath, the meaning of life. Why am I here? It all hits you at once, because you've hit so many roadblocks and so many different avenues that have disappointed you and hurt you. And then you go back to that love that you were missing and not realizing you haven't traced it back to it came from my parents. That's where my lessons came from. I had to go back and ask that question, why am I where I'm at? How did I get here? And the more I asked the question why, it led me back to that place in my life in the beginning as a child where despite what I did get, there were some things that I didn't get. not to judge, not to blame, not to be angry or bitter, but opening it up, facing it, and realizing that, okay, this is what it was. This is how. And I had to go back even further from me and understood how my dad was raised and how my mom was raised. These are two people who didn't have the capacity. They had their own traumas. And people don't realize as well, that goes even deeper, where if a child is born into the world with parents who are carrying trauma, that child carries that trauma on from those parents. So, yeah. And if you don't recognize it and heal it, it's a pattern. That's where the generational curses come from. It carries on because no one has taken the time out to heal. So for me, that was one of the things that I knew when I started coaching and counseling. I always ask the first question I ask my clients, who are you? What is it? How do you see yourself right now? I don't want to sugarcoat it. I want the hard truth. I want you to look at yourself, and I make them take their time because it's crucial, because I'm going to have them, I know eventually I'm going to have them go back and say, what triggered this? I'm going to have them ask the big why questions. Why? Why do you feel this way? Okay, why? And it gets, it's like that little child. Why? But we got to get down to the root issue of the situation in order to fix the whole situation. We have to get down to it. We have to dig it up, and digging anything up from the dirt is dirty, and it's nasty, and it doesn't feel good. So that's the same thing with life. So everything that I've been through with my own personal coaching, counseling myself, is exactly the tools that I use to work with any of my clients that I get.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Now, how did your coaching program started? At what point did you start to coach?
Initially, it started, I would have to say, with a women's meeting. It wasn't, I didn't even look at it as coaching. I didn't label it as coaching or counseling because I didn't have the credentials at the time. But what I did was had women gatherings. And if you've heard of Iyanla Vanzant, that's how I kind of got the inkling of it. I would say I heard of her first thing, Starting Over House, in 99. And that was my inspiration right there. So I would have women gatherings. And in those women gatherings, I said, let's just get together as women and we'll talk. And from that point, I would have women in there go person by person, and I'd ask that question. It was a potluck. We made it real personable. It wasn't, you didn't feel like you needed a pen or a pad unless you just wanted one. I wanted them to be relaxed. I created a safe space for women to be able to get together and talk and release. Because one thing that I learned in life was something that women weren't able to do. And it was a stigma. We weren't able to use our voice as much. We were basically, be quiet, do this, do that. This is where you belong. This is the era I grew up in. So now it's changing, which is a blessing. We're now able to have our voice. We didn't have that. So for me to create a space where women could open up and release finally, even if it meant breaking down, she knew she had a safe space to cry, to yell, to scream, whatever she needed to do. And she had sisters or other women around her that would cry with her, hold her, hug her through it, and talk her through it, and know she could walk away with no judgment. And we would all come together and try to figure out some ways to help each other in whatever our situations were. Sometimes you just need to cry in order to release. Sometimes you just need that listening voice. You don't need someone to help you figure it out. You need someone I just need your presence right now. That's all. And that's what I wanted to create. And that's where it began.